Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you know that this is my series in which I use tarot and oracle cards to explore topics related to living the intentional life. And I have some new decks for us to explore this week. But before we get to that, I'd like to ask you a question. What do you think, or what do you feel when you hear the words eternal student? I remember just a few years ago, my mother and I were sitting at a table. And my mother decided that she had come to the point where she was going to teach me the correct way to drink a glass of wine, how to swirl the glass properly on the table, how to do all of the steps for wine tasting, which apparently she had learned fairly recently. And I had learned some things similar to it a little longer ago, but she wanted to teach me. And frankly, at that time, I wasn't all that interested in having that lesson. And so my mom was quite disappointed with me. She looked at me and said, "You know, Derek, you should be learning throughout your entire life. You should want to learn until the day you die." And I agree with her. I agree with her. In that sense, I am an eternal student. I just wasn't in the mood to learn that particular thing at that particular moment. And that's okay. We don't have to learn everything when it presents itself to us. Now, there are times when our interests are in different directions from what other people want to be teaching us, right? That doesn't mean that we are not eternal students. We're not lifelong students. However, I did a quick search on the internet using my favorite Google, and I was surprised to discover that there's a diversity of ideas regarding the concept of the eternal student. In fact, there are some very negative ones. In fact, one on a medical site gives reasons why you would want to avoid being the eternal student. And ways to stop being an eternal student, which I thought was quite shocking until I read what they were presenting. And what they were presenting as the eternal student is the person who is eternally grasping for degrees and certificates and proof, institutionalized proof, that they have accomplished some step of learning. And that's not what we mean when we're discussing eternal student in the context of the intentional life. The intentional life is a life of curiosity. It's a life of evolution. It's a life of exploration and discovery. And in that sense, it's a life of the eternal student. Because my mother is right. When we decide that we've learned it all, we don't need to know anything else, we begin to stagnate and we begin to die, in a sense. Emotionally, intellectually, perhaps even psycho-spiritually, not spiritually. Our eternal beings don't die. But our psycho-spiritual aspect will begin to disintegrate, if you will, if we don't allow ourselves to maintain our natural desire to learn, because that is who we are as eternal beings, having these human experiences in these beautiful bodies that we are co-creating. Our natural state is the eternal student. We came here into this physical world to do what? To create, sure, but that's the byproduct. That's the result. We came here to explore, to learn, to discover, to enjoy, to revel in this physicality that is this physical universe. Which is exactly what we're talking about today as the eternal student. So, friends, are you with me? Do you agree with me? I'd like to hear from you. Perhaps now would be a good time in the comments to let me know, what do you think about the eternal student? Do you think it's something to strive for? I don't want to put that striving in there in this conversation. Is it something we want to remember to open ourselves to? Or is it something that you think we need to avoid because it's a distraction? Let me bring up one more thing. Buddhist monks. Buddhist monks. A lot of us believe that a good, conscientious Buddhist monk is one on the path to enlightenment. And for many of us, we think that's the path of emptying the mind. Like we take a garbage can out and empty it. The mind, we don't empty the mind. We allow the mind to grow quiet. But we don't empty the mind. And a Buddhist monk walking the path of enlightenment is one who is an eternal student of self, is constantly curious about what the mind is doing. What is mind creating within themselves or out in what we consider to be our physical experience? Because our perception of this physical universe is a projection of ourselves, right? So, a Buddhist monk is an eternal student. A Buddhist monk is constantly apprehending, opening themselves with curiosity to what is happening here and now in the mind, and in the mind as it projects out into the universe. So, I firmly believe that being an eternal student is our natural state as we open to the powerful flow of intention, moving us towards the things we're creating intentionally for ourselves, and as they come towards us with the flow of our intention. Does that make sense? So, friends, I've got a spread laid out for you. Why am I talking this long about eternal studenthood? Let me show you the spread right now. That was the spread. What do you think? Aren't these cards beautiful? Did you notice that I have new cards out? There are new cards out, and they are all available. They're all available right now. So at the end of this video, there will be a short clip that will tell you the names of the decks and the names of the creators of the decks. And also in the description box below, there will be links for you to go and check out the decks and see if you'd be interested in purchasing one or many of them. Remember, I do not get any financial remuneration if you use those links. They're just there for your convenience. So go check them out. These are wonderful decks. And they are, again, all available. Yes, they are all available. Now, you saw the whole spread. And if you are a new visitor here, let me give you a brief outline of what you just saw. I have a deeper explanation of this spread. This is my Ace of Pentacles spread on my spreads playlist. So if you want to see how this spread works in detail, go check out that video. Again, in my playlist called Spreads, and More Spreads. But here's a brief outline of what you saw. There are 4 cards in the center. They give us the main message, the theme, the thesis statement of this spread, if this were an essay. And above those 4 cards, there were 3 cards that are the area of air, our mind, our attention, where our attention is going, or what we see, our vision. And then there were 3 cards below. That is the earth. That's where our bodies are, what we're experiencing in the world, what we actually might want to pay attention to in the physical realm, our work, our bodies, our health, all of that area. And then there were 2 cards on the sides. And those 2 cards are from oracle decks, either side of the central 4 cards. Those 2 cards give us an integrated piece of advice. So that's the way we're going to be reading this spread. Let me show you the central 4 cards, the thesis statement for this spread right now. If you are a regular viewer of my channel, then the 4 cards that you just saw are from a deck that you are very familiar with. This deck is not new. And I will continue using this deck probably for the rest of this year and maybe until next summer at least. I'd like to spend a full year with this deck, really understanding and learning this deck as well as I can as I use it with you, exploring living the intentional life. So, these 4 cards, and I'm going to read them off in a clockwise fashion, starting from the upper right. We started off with the Page of Discs upright, then we had the 7 of Discs reversed, and then we had the Knight of Wands upright, and then we had the World reversed. So upright, reversed, upright, reversed. There are many interesting things about these 4 cards in combination, especially as they lay. One of them is, except for the World, which has no seasonal attributions, the other 3 cards, the way they lay, all refer to winter, which is interesting. Also, because they fell upright, reverse, and the way that those cards are read in those positions, it really seems to me to be an if-then kind of spread. So, upright page, if the page upright, then the 7 of Discs reversed. If the Knight upright, then the World reversed. So I think this is going to be the way to get into this part of the spread. And that's the way we're going to read it. So let's get started. So we start off with the Page of Discs. Let me show you the card up close and personal. The Page of Discs. You see a page. It's hard to tell the age of this being, right? Because of the way it's drawn. I can't really tell an age. Is it a young person whose face is contorted, or is it an older person? I don't know. But we see that the mouth is open in a gaping cry or scream. And from the first time that I saw this card in this deck, that figure has disturbed me because of the expression on their face. It reminds me of nightmares that I've had, not nightmares that I've had. It reminds me of horror movies, frankly. Now that scream in the night, perhaps, that gaping mouth curdling scream with the mouth all the way open like that, the howling. That's what I see when I see that face. And I don't think that's the way it is intended by the creator of this deck, or perhaps even by the drawer of the image that was used to create this deck. However, that's what I see. And this is a card of winter. And we see at the feet of the page, there is a dragon that looks like it's trying to get the attention of the page, trying to supplicate itself in front of the page, right? We've got the page holding a drum upside down. You see that? Let me show you right here. Right here on the side, there's a drum being held upside down. There's a sun up on this corner here and the moon down below. It's a gorgeous card. The artwork is beautiful in this deck. But the expression on the face of this page still disturbs me. So, let's get into what this is trying to tell us. Oh, there are also wings on the page, right? So, this page is trying to, or is here to represent the winter solstice. Now, the winter season. And like I said, the three cards, except for the world, all end up being related to the winter season, which I thought was interesting. So the winter solstice. He is at the end, so we've gone through the harvest, things have gotten cold and things have started to die, but now the seeds under the ground are getting ready for the next cycle, right? We've gone past the longest darkness and we're starting into the growth into light in the winter. So this is a seed of the new cycle in one way of understanding it. Also, he's an attractor. Yeah, he attracts and speaks things into existence. See the mouth? So do we. That's what living the intentional life is, right? We speak things into existence vibrationally first, and then the power of intention, our river of intention moves us in the direction of those things that we have spoken into existence vibrationally. And then as we move towards them, they are attracted to us and they manifest. So that's how we speak things into existence. With our words, certainly, but not only with our words. We speak things into existence with our thoughts. Our thoughts speak. We speak things into existence consciously and even more often unconsciously, without really realizing what we are speaking into existence. But we speak things into existence by our perception of things and the way we take in information, process it, and make meaning of it. That making meaning of it causes the speaking of what we create into the world. We see something, we process it, we decide whether we like it or not, and if we like it, we want perhaps more of it, or we want a better version of it. If we don't like it, we want to avoid it, but if we give too much attention to it, we might experience it more. Right? That's how speaking things into existence works. And this page is here to remind us that opportunities must be seized or let go. Now, are we going to nurture the seed that's been planted, or are we going to let it go and let it die on its own? There are no half measures here with this page. There's a little bit of a harshness there, you might think, but it's not. It's a clarity. This page asks us to be clear. When an opportunity presents itself, take it or let it go. Don't let it go and keep stressing ourselves over, well, should I have done that? Should what? I don't know. What if I had, what ifs, right? No, this page is saying, if it's good, take it. If not, just let it completely go. Stop giving it energy. Also, this page, as well as all of the pages in this deck, this page is the servant of the Queen of Discs. The page of Cups is the servant of the Queen of Cups. This page is the one who gets the stuff for the Queen of Discs done in the world. This is the page who is also able to create the desires of others in the world. For example, the desires of the Queen of Discs into the world. And in order to be able to do that, this page benefits from his desire, their desire to learn, to understand how the world functions, to understand what we get when we do things in the world. And this page can seem to get what he, she, they want without really lifting a finger, because they know how the things work. They know how the gears work together. And by just pushing one lever off to the side, knows that the gears will move so that this thing will pop out. The thing that they wanted, or the thing that their queen wanted, will pop out, because they know how things interact in the world, and continue to learn how things interact in the world. And so they don't need to struggle and strive for things so much, but rather understand the functioning of the world and how to get what they want. So this card is also reminding us, in order to be able to do that, to become active students of abundance, become active students of the ins and outs of this physical material world. The rules, the methods, the interactions, the resources, the information that is out there, the manifested information that is out there. And that some of that information can be in like books, can be online, surely, but also the information in our environments. Students of all of that, not expecting that we have to learn it all. That's an immense task that only the creator of this entire universe could really hold in their minds. However, we want to be open to learning as much as we can as the information makes itself available to us or reveals itself to us. So perhaps, okay, maybe that time when I was with my mother, and maybe when she was trying to teach me something and I was not open to learning it, maybe I had cut myself off from the powerful flow of intention. Maybe I could have done better then. Now, my mother's assessment that means that I am now closed to learning was not correct either. But I probably could have been more open to receiving what my mother was desiring to give me at that time. And in so being, I would have fulfilled my function as the page of coin much better. So this page, yes, beats the drum, speaks the words with actual words or with the mind, with spirit, sometimes with the unconscious, and brings things into manifestation out in the world. And when we are open to our powerful flow of intention, we move more quickly towards them. When we close ourselves off, it's a little slow going. But we'll get there eventually. This lifetime, another lifetime, we'll get there eventually. So that's the page in the winter solstice. So if this, then what? Then, yes, this is the Seven of Discs. Let me show it to you upright, because it's easier to see upright, right? The Seven of Discs, what do we see? The Seven of Discs is Saturn in Virgo. When it's upright, it's Saturn in Virgo. So there's a harshness to the regulation, the regime of a Virgo. The lists, the getting things done, the organized fixedness of that earth suit of Virgo. Well, just a moment. Is Virgo fixed? Okay, I might be wrong about that. But anyways, Virgo is the one who gets things done, makes lists, which can be a little bit regimented, right? And Saturn adds a little bit of enhances that ability to make lists, to get things done, to focus on details. with clarity, with specificity, with boundaries and borders. And I'm moving this card around. So, when it's reversed, what do we get? Well, you saw in the image there was this lush tree and the discs all around, and we've got this top central disc with the triangle, the eye of God there. It's all very powerful. And it's the time of harvest, right? Virgo, that's not a winter sign. However, when it goes in reverse, we get Mercury in Pisces. Pisces is the very end of winter. Aries is the beginning of spring. So this is, in reverse, has become a winter card. The end of winter, but a winter card. So what do we get from this card in reverse? If we are the student, the creator, the page of wands, the page of discs, speaking things into creation for ourselves and for others, and learning about how to do that with minimal effort, perhaps. What do we get from the Seven of Discs reversed? Reversed, you'd think, oh, that's not so good, but it's not so bad. Yeah, we learn service in the Seven of Discs reversed. We learn service as an ethic and the benefits of self-sacrifice, the benefits of doing for others, of investing our resources to the benefit of others, which is a kind of self-sacrifice. Now, there's also another kind of self-sacrifice where you take the bullet for somebody else in more modern times, or the self-sacrifice of Jesus Christ on the cross. That's a self-sacrifice. But we don't have to go that far in this card here. Yeah? We do stuff for others. We expend our energy for the benefit of others. That's a kind of self-sacrifice. And in this card, we learn how to do that. Similar to the Page of Discs, right? Doing the creation on behalf of the Queen, on behalf of others. This card is also reminding us to take the emotional risk. And you're saying, emotional risk, this is the disc suit. But yes, we take the emotional risk of feeling deeply how we can serve others. Because we're not... Have you ever seen anybody who serves others in a way that the others don't particularly want? I'm not sure if this makes sense to you, but instead of deeply feeling what the other needs, wants, could benefit from, they decide from their own experience, well, you have this problem, so you need this. You have a cold, so you need chicken soup, for example. Whether that other person likes chicken soup or not, is vegetarian or not, they've made the decision that, nope, colds mean chicken soup, so here's your chicken soup. I slaved over a hot stove making this chicken soup for you, so you must eat it. That's not what we're talking about here. Now, that's not someone who's fully open to the other's experience and the other's desires and requirements and wants and needs in the world. And that it's an emotional risk to open ourselves to that. It can be uncomfortable because there could be some discord. There could be, I think chicken soup is the best thing, but you're a vegetarian? There's a discomfort there. There can be a discomfort there. I'm using a very mundane example. There could be much deeper differences. But taking the emotional risk of opening to the other's needs and desires for their lives. There's a recent movie in which, now the movie isn't about Sally Field, but Sally Field comes out in the movie. It appears in the movie. And in that movie, Sally Field is one of the parents of children who, in the movie, are adults. And they're like in their 30s, it looks like. And now they are coming out as gay, as homosexual. gay and lesbian, I believe, gay and homosexual to their parents, and the mother is like, at that moment, at that time, I haven't seen the movie, I just saw trailers, but at that moment, the mother is not emotionally open to what their child needs. And so that's what we're asked to be in this card. Emotionally open. Take the risk of opening to the needs of others, to be able to serve correctly, properly, beneficially for others. And we also want to be careful not to do what we're unprepared for. Yeah, the Seven of Wands, remember the Seven of Wands, when it's reversed, that barricade, that obstacle can appear for us when we're not ready, when we're either we've got too much hubris, we think we can do it all and we can't yet, or just that we're not ready to move on. We've got that idea here as well, that perhaps we're not ready to do the thing we're going to do, and we don't want to take unnecessary risks. We don't want to do what we're unprepared for. Whether we're doing it for the service of others or not, we also want to assess our abilities and capabilities at the time. That doesn't mean that we could never do it, because we are the Page of Discs. We're going to learn. We want to learn. In fact, discovering that we are unprepared to do something is a benefit. It can ignite that curiosity, that desire to learn. Well, I can't do it now. How do I become ready to do it? And we also want to admit our mistakes when we do things that fall on their faces, or when we fall on our faces. Admit that when we've made a mistake, we've made a mistake. We aren't wrong. There's no time that we are wrong. We just haven't, again, learned enough. And so we admit it. We admit when we've done something when we haven't been prepared, or we weren't ready, or where we got distracted, or something has caused us to do something that was not beneficial, was not correct. And so we admit that. So we want to review how we have missed the mark, which is in the tradition of Christianity that I studied in my graduate program. That's another word for sin, or the meaning of sin. The meaning of sin is missing the mark. You try to do something, and instead of going for that good that you were aiming for, you missed the mark. Because innately, our innate beings are not out here to do wrong, to do unbeneficial things. We are here as beautiful creators of love, joy, well-being, in pure awareness. But sometimes we miss the mark. And so in this card, we want to admit when we've missed the mark and review why, how, what was that process of missing the mark? Where did our aim go off? So that we can learn, like this dude, gal, non-binary person. So, if this, then we have the opportunity to create for the service of others. Because as we serve others, we serve ourselves. There is no lack of benefit for us when we serve. When we create in service of others, we're creating so much more for ourselves than we can possibly imagine. Do you know that? There can sometimes be a selfish element to serving others. And sometimes it could get dark. And sometimes we do miss the mark as we attempt to serve others. But when we allow ourselves to be open to the emotional, psycho-spiritual, I'm going to use that word again, psycho-spiritual connection that allows us to understand how to really help, how to be of service properly to the other. Then we create beauty not only for them, but for us. And not only for the two or these two, the server and the served, but also all of the people around us get equal benefit from that. And that's a whole other topic, something that's been researched, and it's an amazing thing. The Good Samaritan effect, where it's not the person who helps is benefited, the person who receives the help is benefited. But those who observe that event of helping are also benefited. So imagine the good that is created when we do serve. And again, it's not just for other people, it's for all of us. And so the page of discs in His, Her, Their magnificence does that. And when we make mistakes, we admit it and learn. Now we move into the Knight of Wands. It's a beautiful card. Beautiful, beautiful card. A fire card, right? Wands. And what do we see here? Do you see the salamander there on the side? Yeah, the animal, the spirit animal of the fire suit. And we see this beautiful being with the sun above. We see radiating fire all around. We see the burst of sun from below, the burst of sun from above. We see a pot of fire in their arms. Just a gorgeous card. In an ellipse, sort of like the world card, not in this deck, but in other decks. Tarot de Marseille, Pamela Coleman Smith's art has it as well, the world card. The figure in the center is surrounded by a wreath in an ellipse, similar to this one, to me. Now, there are no vines here, but still, the shape. Okay, there are vines, but not the same. It's just not the same, but still, similar enough for me. It's a beautiful card. And this is Sagittarius, a winter sign. So we get this card. Fire suit. I'm a fire element. Yeah, my sun sign is Leo. So one would think that I would get along well with this card. The Sagittarius of this card. And I do. But this card has some very negative, to me, aspects to it. Yeah, this card is active. It's a very active card. It's a very active suit. And that's something that we enjoy being in the world. That's why we came into the world, right? To act, to create, to experience, to go out there and do, be, and have, and love. All of that. And this knight loves to do that. Right out into the world with their passion and for their glory. But this knight is also sensitive. Sometimes a sensitive fire starter. Yeah? Sometimes, and what is sensitive? There are different ways of understanding that word sensitive, and a sensitive, someone who is sensitive to the energetic vibrations around, is empathetic and is intuitive. Yes, that is someone who is sensitive, surely. But there's also the other kind of sensitive, the kind of person who is easily offended, who easily takes, is wounded, is upset, becomes angry. That kind of sensitive. That's the kind of sensitive that this knight can be sometimes. Yeah, and at his best, this knight is ready to ride in and save the day, but don't say the wrong thing to him or her or them, because they're going to go off. They're going to start a fire. And this knight seeks to impose order in what they perceive as a very chaotic world. A very chaotic environment, which I can understand. Leos are playful, and I like order as a Leo, but this Sagittarius is like, we got to fix this, right? So when he knows what he's got to do, he can bring people together. He, she, or they can bring people together. They're very charismatic. People see that burning, powerful fire and they're just drawn and want to not only follow, but become like them. Now, that kind of charisma. But this knight is also a little bit of a shapeshifter. Leos are fixed signs, right? This is not a fixed sign. This is a shapeshifter. A shapeshifter in positive ways, yeah, because this shapeshifter can navigate the changes of culture, of the environment, the wilderness, going out in nature, can navigate that, even in mystical spaces. This Sagittarius, charismatic, shape-shifting being can mold themselves and redirect themselves in and around a variety of environments, from the day-to-day to the mystical to the city to the wilderness. They know how to direct their arrow. Now, Sagittarius is like a centaur form, right, with an archer. So is able to direct their arrow and navigate these spaces. However, because they are a shapeshifter, it's hard to figure out who they're going to be and how they're going to show up at any given time. And so they require, we want to be a little bit careful when we approach these charismatic beings. Because when this person is filled with their light, when they are fearless, they will rush in and slay the dragon for us. But sometimes their reason for slaying the dragon is for their own benefit. They want to prove to themselves how powerful they are. And we sometimes get the benefit of it as well. But again, if they're not in their fullness of light, if they've been pushed in the wrong way, in the way that they don't like, then they're going to do something else, right? So, like I said, this card, this kind of person, this kind of way of being in the world can be very beneficial, but it's also they can shoot off in the wrong direction. They can easily miss the mark, and their mark can be knocked off by their experiences in the world. So if this, instead of being the Page of Discs, if we are this, if we are that, when I look at a similar card in Pamela Coleman Smith's art, I think of Hotspur from the Henry IV history plays. Hotspur, the one who rides off into battle and is a Hotspur, a hot-headed adventurer. But don't piss him off. Don't piss him off, because not good things will happen. So if this, then what? Then we got the World reversed. Now the World is an air card in this deck. Because this deck is, and I don't think I said this yet, this deck is not based on the Rider-Waite-Smith tradition. This is not based on the Golden Dawn traditions of decks, which gave life to the RWS, the Smith-Waite deck, or the Thoth deck, the Harris-Crowley decks. And all of their generations, from their first additions to their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren. This deck is from a previous world of tarot, from the continental systems. For example, the esoterica around the Tarot de Marseille, or the Italian decks. So, in that system, the World card is air. And maybe, I don't know, for you, is air, if you associate elements with air, is air winter for you? It very well could be. So, if it is, then we continue that idea of winter in this card as well. which also makes sense. I mean, the end of the cycle is at the end of winter and we begin again in spring. So the world is also an ending card, right? The end of a cycle. So what do we get with this card? Let me show it to you upright. Upright, da, 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 da. We have this beautiful image of a goddess to me. And this goddess is standing in the universe. We've got the world at her feet. And definitely a female presenting goddess to me. We've got the moon off to the side. I've got to look at this. My copy here is reversed. And there's this shadow down here, which is interesting, right? And we've got the letters for the symbols for the planets around. We've got Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, right there around the globe. Can you see it? So this is a beautiful card. It's a gorgeous card. But we got this in reverse. So first, let's consider the upright meaning of this card. Upright. This figure here is a representation of Sophia, triumphant. Sophia awakening in the material world to awakening in the material world and awakening the material world to its spiritual nature and affecting the reunion of earth and heaven. Now, this is Sophia after having come down the ladder of the tree of life to Malkut, the manifested world, and here in the manifested world, Sophia wakes us all up, or is the cause of our awakening to our spiritual beings, our spiritual state in this physical realm, and affecting the reunion of Keter and Malkut. Not the opposite of the fallen tree. Right now we're living in the fallen tree. This would be the risen tree, the resurrected tree of life. And bringing us all back up into communication and interaction and easy flow of energy and information and spirit and all of that wonderful stuff. So that's what this card is, one of the ideas for this card as an upright image. Reversed, that ain't happened yet. Now in reverse, this hasn't happened yet. We may be stuck. We may be stuck in our addictions and our attachments here in this material Malkut realm. Not ready to or able to awaken to the fullness of who we are. As eternal beings, having these human experiences. Maybe we're stuck in the terrible twos. Not terrible twos. If you're not from the United States, does that make sense to you, the terrible twos? We think of 2-year-olds who are starting to get their independence and wanting to begin to assert their independence by saying, no, 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 the terrible twos. And so for Koreans, that would probably be the terrible threes, because in Korea and China and Japan and maybe other places, they start counting age differently. You're 1 year old when you're born. And there are ideas behind that. But so it's also a difference between using ordinal numbers and cardinal numbers for calculating age. They're just a different way of thinking about how we indicate the age of a person. Anyways, so the terrible twos, yeah, where we just say no to everything. Wake up, no. You're a spiritual being, no. No, 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 no. I am me. I am independent. I am no, 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 no. Yeah, that if we can get stuck in that. No, I want it my way. It has to be like this. We got attached to what we think we really want. the terrible twos. That's another indication of this card in reverse. We think we know what is best for us, even though we haven't awakened to who we fully are. This ego, this wounded ego self, thinks it knows what is best for us. And it gets attached to that sense of power and no, my way, me, I. All of that out there is different from and not connected to me, and I want my way. Now that can be this card in reverse. Possessively grasping for things, desperately fulfilling our appetites. Not so, now don't get me wrong, we're not talking about the devil here. We're not talking about that kind of like addiction in the Rider-Waite-Smith devil card. Or even sometimes a Tarot de Marseille card. This is that not waking up. Now we heard the call in the Judgment card right before this, yeah? So there was the call, but we haven't woken up. And so we're still attached to the stuffness of this world and our ego and all of that, and not waking up to our spiritual, to the fact that we are spiritual beings having these experiences and reconnecting to the divine, allowing that connection to be part of our experience. We're never disconnected from the divine. That's impossible. But we can, as one of my favorite teachers, Abraham Smith, oh my gosh, what is their name? Abraham Hicks. One of my favorite teachers, Abraham Hicks, says, you can never cut yourself off, but you can pinch yourself off pretty good. Like a hose, you can pinch it off. There's still water trickling through there, but it's not completely disconnected, but it's not open either. Yeah? So we can pinch ourselves off from our connection with the eternal natures that we are and the rest of the divine consciousness that is creating this physical universe. We can pinch ourselves off. And that's what this card is for me in reverse. So, not this one. If we go too far into this, we're going to get this. We're going to get too attached to all those things I described in this card. Yeah, that energy, that getting stuff done, the adventures, the killing the dragons, and also our sensitivity to things that we don't particularly like, that don't feed our egos. And so can you see how this could become this in reverse? That the terrible twos, the unawakened, the demanding, the attached. So, what do you think? Which one do we want to be? Do we want to be the page leading to the 7 of discs serving others? Or do we want to be the knight leading to the world in reverse, not awakening, not being fully aware of who we are in our eternal state, and being so distracted by and attached to the physical world only that we get petulant. I choose the page of discs, the eternal student, which is what this spread really is trying to tell us. And we'll see why I say that in just a moment. Let's take a look at the 3 cards above, which give us where our attention is, where our thoughts are, what we want to look at. The air. Let's take a look. This is one of the new decks for this cycle of the moon, for this spread, right? Beautiful deck. Very simple and yet deep and surprisingly complex in its simplicity. So if you're curious about the creator, remember at the end of the video, there will be a short clip that gives you that information and link below. So beautiful deck. And the first time when I laid out the deck and the first time I did a really speed reading of the deck, I read these cards very differently. I read these cards very differently because I did the 4 in the center, then I went up to these, and then I went down to the ones we'll see in just a little bit, and then the advice. I read these cards in one way, and it was kind of a negative way. Maybe I was still working my way through that Knight of Wands world part, and my mind was still a little bit on the negative side, maybe. But what cards did we get? So we got the Emperor from left to right, the Emperor, the Moon, and the Page of Pentacles, which is the Page of Discs in the other deck. The Page of Pentacles. Beautiful cards. I love these cards. I love the way they're drawn. And let me tell you the first way I read this, because I think a lot of people would probably read these in a similar way. Yeah? The Emperor, we've got the idea of authority, perhaps a little bit of dictatorship, yeah, which kind of reminded me of that Knight of Wands a little bit, brought to an extreme. And there's a poppy here. Poppies are where we get the drug opium, right? And so when the moon was right next to it, I thought, so then we've got these illusions. I usually don't read the moon this way. But coming off of the poppy, and I saw the moon, I thought, so this is like this drug-induced illusion and fears. And so then how does that lead us to the Page of Pentacles? So we've got to wake up from the dream and start learning? Is that what it's trying to say? Do you see how I first got there? But then, after reading the rest of the cards and then sitting with this is the reason why I don't do this spread live. Because this spread, for one thing, well, no, always, this spread asks for me to sit with it for a while before I read it. And in sitting with this spread for a little while, it wasn't all that long actually, it just took a couple of hours for me to get past that stumbling block I had put in my own way. And so instead of that, we have this Emperor card, which actually I like the Emperor. Even in Smith-Waite deck, and this is Smith-Waite inspired. Let's not forget that. This, even though it doesn't look like Pamela Coleman Smith's art in the least, it's still that same tradition, that same system reinvented without people. And so the Emperor here, instead of a guy sitting on a throne with a lot of armor and a lot of fire and red in the background, actually the whole card is red, very red. Even in the Thoth deck, it's a very red, yellow, orange card. The Emperor. With ram's heads and a shield and a very parched, this is, again, I'm back to Pamela Coleman Smith's art, and a parched mountainous landscape in the background. Some people think they see a stream in that card as well, but the vast majority of landscape is parched, dry, mountainous desert. Right after the Empress, right? Here, what do we have? We have these rows of poppies, very regimented, clearly planted by humans in lines, cultivated poppies. So we got that sense of order. We got that sense of structure, of establishment, of authority. Yeah, humans are recreating the environment to match what they see as their needs. Whereas the Empress would have just allowed the poppies to grow where they will. The Emperor is saying, no, we're going to put these poppies in lines so that they grow better, according to the emperor. They'll have more light. The poppies that grow will have, each poppy will have the most access to light and nutrients, which is a good thing, right? Especially if you're growing and harvesting things. So growing poppies this way is not only efficient, but beneficial for each individual poppy. So the emperor isn't necessarily about forcing people to do things that they don't want to do, being a dictator. It's about giving structure. It's also about creation. Now, for me, the emperor is also a creator. It's the partner of the empress creator. The empress creates in one way, the emperor creates in another. The emperor is a creator. It's a creator in a structure, in a form, with a plan. Whereas the empress for me is a creator of abundance as it sees fit. It's an allowing. It's the of yin yang, yang in Korean. It's the yin creator, one who holds space for and allows creation to occur, and the yang creator, the one who goes out and makes things. Yeah? So the emperor is the yang creator to me. So we create order, we create structure. Then what about the moon? Now, it's when I noticed this one poppy is large, takes up the upper half of the card. Takes up the upper half of this card, right? This poppy becomes the moon to me. Now, so at first I was thinking, so our attempts at structure are an illusion. That was one way of reading it. But this also, you notice that there's a lot of space in the Emperor card. Now, the poppies are in a row, and between each row there's a lot of space for light to enter, for nutrients to be absorbed. So in this space, we have the opportunity to do the more positive side of the moon. So for some people, yeah, the moon is illusions, fear, anxiety. It's the scary subconscious, projecting shadows and nightmares out into the world, or obscuring our vision of the world so we don't see what's actually happening. Now there's that way of reading it. I'm not scoffing that, because I went there for a moment. And given the right spread, I can go there. Or if I'm reading reversals with the moon, when the moon is reversed, I'll read that, certainly. But here, there's that scary subconscious, our scary perception of the subconscious. But the subconscious is not scary in and of itself. It's our projection onto the subconscious because we don't know what it is, and so it's scary. And we're afraid there be monsters there. However, if we open ourselves up, if we give ourselves space to that, that's where our intuition rises from. That's where our imagination is fed. That's where we're able to reflect, right? The moon reflects on water in a beautiful way when it's full. Or even when it's a quarter or sometimes even a crescent you can see. But when it's full, the reflection of a full moon on a lake or a pond is just stunning, isn't it? And it's an opportunity for us to speculate, to reflect. Because the harsh light of the sun can burn. It can be too harsh. Reflected off the moon and then reflected off the water, it's a very gentle light, easier to absorb. And it gives us space for our intuition, for our dreams. And dreams are wonderful things. Both the sleep the dreams we have when we're asleep, and our waking dreams, our daydreaming. Feed our ability to create. Feed the vibrational manifestations that we put on our powerful current of intention. And these lead us now to the Page of Pentacles, right? So this poppy has become the moon, our reflected light, our dreams, our imagination, our intuition. And now the page here has picked up that disc. Has picked up that disc. And in this card, the page's disc is manageable by the page. In some cards, the page's disc is large or the page isn't even able to hold the disc. The disc is floating up in the sky. In this card, the page has the disc in their hands, is interacting with that disc. So it's the Page of Pentacles is the card of manifestation, of opportunity, of developing skills and practical investigation of the environment. Rather than a theoretical, conceptual investigation of books and ideas, this is the practical student. Scholarly, yes. Learning, yes. Eternal student, yes. But there's a practicality to it. Not only because the student wants to learn, not only because the student sees that only things with practical results are of value. Now that is part of it, sure, but the study of things, even if they do not result in a practical, in something practical, I think are still going to be beneficial to this page, because it's the process of learning that is what allows us to grow and learn and discover and enjoy being physical bodies in this physical universe. So this Page of Pentacles has had that dream, has had that vision, has had all of that in the moon, and now plucks it out of the sky and investigates, what can I do with this? What does this mean for me? What's happening? What is the opportunity here? Which direction is this idea going to be pointing me in? Does that make sense? So, one way for us to feed our potential as pages of discs, coins, pentacles, is to create space for us to envision, to dream, to receive information from our intuition, rather than analytically rationalizing and there's great benefit to doing that, to being the Page of Swords, to analyzing and critiquing and deciding and cutting away clouds of confusion. There's benefit to that. But here we're looking at, how do we feed our practical student, our eternal student in the physical world? Well, we do that by allowing space for our imaginations to guide us, to lead us, to give us ideas of where and what to investigate. Does that make sense? I think this is really, really interesting. I think this is very interesting. I hope you do too. So that's where we want our attention to be, giving ourselves the opportunity to be fed by our intuition so that we discover new things to investigate, to study, to play with, to discover. Okay, so we've just discovered the air. Now let's dig into the earth below, the 3 cards below the 4 cards in the center. Here they are. This is the second new deck to this series. And I'll be using this deck as well for the rest of this lunar cycle. And this deck is also a deck where there are no full humans in this deck either. Now, both of these decks, the one that we just saw that was in the air space and this deck which is in the earth space, both of these decks, the creators of both of these decks invite us to enter into the card and place ourselves in the space of the card. You could do path working with these decks, but to see ourselves in these symbolic environments. So, the three cards we got down in the earth were the Sun, the Page of Pentacles, and the Page of Wands. Not the Knight here, the Page, which is important as well. So, do you see why the Page of Pentacles, the Page of Discs, was so important for me in this spread? Because the page showed up 3 times in different forms. So, what is the Page of Pentacles telling us here? How does this page fit in this line of 3? Well, the first time I looked at the spread, I thought, okay, so then the page is the center here, but the page wasn't the center of the other parts of the entire spread. So that didn't feel right to me. Now, if the Page of Pentacles in the top were in the center, aligned with the Page of Pentacles in the center below, then I'd say, oh yeah, let's read the pages as the center. But I don't think the page is the center here. It's the key idea, the key element, but it isn't the focal point of the reading of this line of 3 cards where I'm going to read the other 2 cards in relation to it. Does that make sense? So we're going to read these from left to right. We're going to read the 2 pages as compatriots, springing forth from the first card, which is the Sun. Da 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 da. Here comes the Sun. Beautiful card, right? And reminiscent of a lot of the Sun cards in Pamela Coleman Smith's deck and other decks, where we see a child or a baby riding a horse, a white horse. Here we have us riding the white horse on the beach. It's a beautiful card, isn't it? And we see a castle off to the side. Do you see that castle with a pail and a shovel, a plastic pail and a yellow shovel? Do you see that? Beautiful childlike, children's memory of a time on the beach. And I think our inner child is riding this horse, if that too. I think we are the naked baby on the horse. I hope that doesn't freak you out. A lot of people get freaked out by naked babies on horses. To me, I think it's beautiful. I think it's who we are. We're all naked babies on horses. That's not a scary thing. So, the Sun. We're going to start with the Sun. So, the Sun, what is that? It's positivity. It's fun. It's warmth. It can be harshness. The sun can burn, remember? But here we want to remember the warmth of the sun, the joy of the sun, the vitality that we feel when we are warmed by the sun, especially in the winter. The success. We feel successful when we're in the Sun card. We've gone through a whole lot of stuff when we reach the Sun card. We've gone through the tower crumbling. We've healed. We've healed more and started to open our eyes to the broader but dimly lit world of the moon. And now we're here in the Sun, full realization of who we are, where we are, when we are, and what's around us. So that positivity of the Sun, Helios, it's a beautiful card. Riding with joy on our white horse, our white stallion. So this is where we want to begin here. We start from this attitude of the Sun. And if we are not in this attitude of the sun, it's okay. Have you ever been not in the attitude of a sun? Of the sun, I should say, not a sun, of the sun card? Not feeling entirely positive, joyful, fun, vital? That's okay. We're going to have times when we aren't that, and that's okay. But if we're not feeling that, then we're not ready to do this line of cards. We want to prepare ourselves for entering in this time and feeling of positivity, fun, warmth, success, so that we can do the next two things. And what are the next two things? Well, the next two things are the Page of Pentacles and the Page of Wands. Let me show you both of these cards together if I can. Let's see. It's more difficult than I thought it was going to be. Here we go. Here are the two cards, side by side. The Page of Pentacles and the Page of Wands. Page of Pentacles, we've got the book with a light bulb and other images flying up from the book. And we see the two psychedelic-looking mushrooms below the book too, right? In the Page of Wands, we've got a candle in the center, and from that candle springs up dragonflies, and I think there's a snake there, and there are butterflies, and behind the candle, which is beautifully colored red, there are two sets of crystals, one set of clear crystals and one set of shungite crystals, which are purifying crystals. So, what do the pages mean, and what do they mean in this iteration for us? Well, again, the Page of Pentacles. Yeah, manifesting, opportunity, sure, but skill development, learning, allowing ourselves to get those new ideas. A little bit scholarly. Remember, the page doesn't avoid books. Books are also physical objects to investigate. It's just that the page doesn't limit themselves to books. The page learns from nature. The page learns from the environment. The page learns from their experience in the world. And gets ideas. And there may be some danger because these mushrooms are actually poisonous. As beautiful as they are still poisonous. So there is a little bit of danger. We want to be careful of just going blindly out into nature. We want to learn with respect to in an attitude of respect for what it is we are learning. Does that make sense? We're not learning to grasp information, to take. We're learning with respect for what it is we are learning. I think that's what this card here is reminding us of, to maintain our attitude of respect for what it is we're investigating, not to dominate it, not to control it. Okay? So we go from there, and we also have the Page of Wands right beside it. And the Page of Wands, inspiration, ideas, discovery again. Now the page discovers too, but discovers from their passions, from their fire, from their limitless potential. Yeah, the wands are potential energy that's ready to burst into the world. They're energetic, they're motivated to learn. So the page might lack a little bit of motivation to actually get moving, and the Page of Wands supports the Page of Pentacles, yes. With that energy, with that inspiration, with their motivation, their free spirit of fire, with their understanding of their limitless potential to discover in the world. So two of these together, the Page of Discs and the Page of Wands, both of them feed the learning potential with the fire of wands and the groundedness of the earth together, we get this beautiful eternal student, right? With all of the power necessary, with all of the drive necessary to go out and learn, with all of the sensitivity of the physical senses to explore and discover and to look into and feel between the nooks and crannies of things. And what is there? What is that? What can this be? Inspiration and curiosity together, it's a powerful combination. And we can get that when we are here. So we start here in the sun. And then we allow this coupling within ourselves. It's not like, it could be you and another person, sure. That would be wonderful as well. But we can each be both of these simultaneously in the world. And how powerful that is. So remember, before we move into the advice section, I think this wraps this part of the spread up very nicely. Let's do a quick review of how we got here. And then I'm going to take a drink of water. We started off in the center with seeing that we can be the page and we speak things into manifestation, and we also speak things into manifestation not only for ourselves, but in service of each other, of others. And as we become that page, we recognize that we want to be open, to take the risk of opening to others to know what it is that they want. And if we make a mistake, we acknowledge it, and we know that that isn't a slap on the wrist or a saying that we are wrong or we are bad, but this is a new opportunity to learn, to learn something new, to investigate, to study. How did that happen? And what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? And how can I be of better service to others, knowing that as I serve others, I serve myself and I serve everybody around us. And so then not these cards. Then we had the Knight of Wands as another potential. If we do that, there are some of different dangers of becoming, if we're in our power, we could be very powerful, but a lot of the times for our own personal satisfaction, not for the benefit of others. If others benefit, that's great, but that's not the reason why we did it. And if other people criticize us, we can retaliate pretty harshly. And if we do that, if we become that darker side of the Knight of Wands, especially, even though it's not reversed, upright, the Knight can be very sensitive. Then we move into that world reverse where we're attached to things and our experiences in the world become so important that we are unable to open ourselves to the fullness of our eternal natures and the divine. We get stuck in the world. So then what do we do? Well, we want to choose the page of discs, I believe, from this spread. And so as we choose that, where do we put our attention? Well, first, we want to give ourselves space and structure to open ourselves up to our intuition, to our dreams, our daydreams, and our night dreams, and our fantasies, and those things. Now, fantasy, remember, there are good fantasies, and there are fantasies that are, that's just fantasy. And there are fantasies of, I fantasize myself as being this. And that's a creative act. Right? Okay, so that moon. And then we grab that moon in our hands and we, as pages of discs, pentacles, we investigate it, right? That's how we want to put our attention. We give ourselves the space for the moon, and then the moon, we grab the moon and we investigate. And then, so what do we do in our day-to-day lives? Well, in our day-to-day lives, we want to maintain our we want to give attention to our emotional state. And if we're not in the sun, then we want to move ourselves towards the sun. We want to move ourselves up towards the positive end of, there's no end to the scale, the positive direction of the emotional scale from negative to positive. We want to move ourselves up towards the positive, which we can do, and move into the sun so that we can be the united Page of Pentacles and Page of Wands in one being. Like, was that Uttara Asu? Okay, I'm remembering a Japanese ultra, in English we would call them Ultraman's character. I learned it as Uttaraman. It's a whole family of 9 characters, and one of them is Uttara Asu, I think. And Uttara Asu is not one person, but 2 people, twin, brother and sister twin, and they have these power rings, and they put the power rings together and they become one powerful Ultraman. So it's like that. It's like there's the Page of Pentacles brother or sister and the Page of Wands brother or sister, and they put their rings together and they become one when they are in the sun, when they are in their emotional state of the sun. Make sense? That's where we want to be. And when we are that, then we are in our full power. As being the eternal students that have the energy and the power of the Page of Wands and the inspiration to keep moving. So, we're here. We've got some advice to look at. Let's take a look at the advice. Now, because the extra decks, the new decks that I brought into this spread, had no fully formed humans, I decided to go with an oracle deck that was animals. That seemed to make the most sense. So I pulled this deck out, an animal deck, an animal spirit deck. And this deck is by one of my favorite oracle deck creators. And her name is at the end of this video. Stay tuned for that. But this deck is to be read with reversals. And so I shuffled reversals into this deck, and still we got 2 cards upright. So just so you know, we had the potential, and we will see these cards from this deck in reverse, I'm sure, as this lunar cycle progresses. But we started off with 2 upright cards. Porcupine Spirit and Cat Spirit. So let's start with Porcupine Spirit. Do you like porcupines? This is a beautiful card. This is a beautiful porcupine. These animals are all decorated as spirit animals, not real animals out in the world. These are like spirit animals. And as spirit, they have their own spirit symbolic decorations to them. They're not wearing human clothes. They have their own spiritual symbolic decorations. Yeah, that's decorations. Well, they have feathers added, beads added to them. They've got some paint on their faces. Yeah? So Porcupine Spirit. It says at the bottom, time for beginner mind. Now, when this card came out, after reading the rest of this spread, of course, Page of Pentacles, beginner mind, duh, makes absolute sense, right? So, Porcupine Spirit, the colors on this deck, in this deck, are just amazing. We see the porcupine. This porcupine has paint on their nose, blue paint. Do you see that? There are some strings of beads that have been attached to some of their needles. And at the end of one of those strings, there's a feather. It's a beautiful card. There's a glyph at the upper right-hand corner. Upper right-hand corner, yes. It's a beautiful, beautiful card. Oh, so there are 2 feathers. Anyways, Porcupine Spirit. This is approaching things with innocence and curiosity. Just like the Smith-Waite or almost all Pages of Pentacles that I know. Yeah, curiosity, innocence, approaching the things in the physical world, looking at the world afresh. And that can help us. Looking at the world afresh helps us to find what we have been seeking. Have you ever done that? Done what, Mr. Thomas? Done what, you silly man? Well, have you ever been trying to find something in your home? or anywhere in your office, whatever, your car, maybe at the bottom of your purse. Anyways, you're trying to find something. And the more you try to find it, the more fixed you get on where it should be here, or these are the places that I have put it in the past. You get fixated on those things. You're not looking at the world freshly. You're looking at the world as you think it should be and where it should be, and you can't find it. And as you can't find it, the more attached you get to where it should be and the places that you've already checked. Have you gone back and checked them again? Because you're so attached to, because we get more and more attached to the way the world should be working as we sometimes look for things that are not where we think that they should be. And so the process of finding that thing becomes more and more, less and less possible at that time. And then so maybe you have the opportunity to let it go, forget about it. And then suddenly that thing just seems to appear out of nowhere. Have you ever had that experience? That's what this card is reminding us of. That if we see the world freshly, with new eyes. I'm not saying pop your eyes out and go get new eyes. I'm not saying change your contact lenses either. I'm saying with fresh eyes, with sometimes when you have a problem, you're trying to work things out on a project you're trying to do or art you're trying to create, and they say, go to bed and come back with fresh eyes, right? It's that experience. When we have fresh eyes, when we are not seeing the things the way we think that they should be seen, or where they should be, or the way that we've structured them in our minds, when we're seeing them newly, we learn so much more. We get so much more information out of what we're actually seeing, instead of projecting what we think we should be seeing onto those things. We get what we are seeking. Because we have everything that we need to create what it is that we want. We do. We have everything we need. It just needs to be put together. And if we didn't have everything that we needed to create what we desire, probably we wouldn't have that desire in the first place. Our desire is a response to what the potential that is in our environments. And if we don't believe a potential in our environment, then that desire will not form. The desires we have can be manifest because we already feel that potential there, and we believe that potential, which creates a real desire, not a fake desire, not a, I wish I were an NBA basketball, I don't like basketball, but I wish I were an NBA basketball player right now. That's not a true desire. That's one of those negative fantasies which are feeding our egos, right? But our real desires that spring forth from the depth of who we truly are, those desires. I want to have a relationship that is meaningful, that is connected, that is soulful, that is spiritual, that is passionate, that is physical and sexual and loving and mystical all at once. If I have that desire, now you don't have to have that desire, but if I have that desire, I have the resources the resources there for that exist. I just need to see them. That's what this card is reminding us about. Those things we want, those desires, those things we want to create are not only a diamond on a ring, for example, or a house. Their relationships, their experiences, their vacations, their works of art, their thoughts, their ideas, our creations as well. So we have everything that we need in our environments to create what it is we desire. So be playful, be curious, because so much is waiting for us if we're open to it. Now remember, there's the other possibility of not being open and the quills of the porcupine going beep, making sure nothing comes close. Which probably is what the card in reverse is going to tell us. It's going to say, yeah, let your needles come back down, relax, and open. But if we are open, we can learn, we can discover, we can have that beginner mind always. And that's not the only thing. We also want to have spirit, cat spirit. This is a beautiful card as well, right? Let me check the color version just a moment. Yes, we see the cat has a disc attached to their ear. There are feathers also. This cat is beautifully, beautifully adorned with symbols. In spirit symbols. This isn't somebody putting a hat and a Santa Claus suit on a cat. That's not what this is. Or this cat is not carrying around a purse and a walking stick. This is just the spirit adorning itself with its own symbols, right? And this one is saying, claim your independence. The independence of a cat makes absolute sense, right? This cat also has wings, which I love. You see the wings? Sight them wangs. The wings on the side. Able to fly off. A mandala in the background. So this card is here to remind us to also allow space. Allow space between ourselves and others so that we can be grounded in who we are. And we can be grounded in who we are, we can be grounded in our self-worth, in our worthiness to be who we are, our independent selves, in our self-respect. So we respect who we are as independent creatures in this physical universe. So we want to also allow space. We don't have to be constantly butted up against each other and following each other around, right? There are times for that space. Like the Emperor reminded us to allow space for our intuition, right? This cat is reminding us to also allow space for our own independence, but space not in not defensively, not self-protectively, not building up a wall around us, but allowing space in our self-worth, in our self-reliance, in our self-respect. Why? Because if we allow space, we can feed our own senses of self-worth, our independence, and walk. If we have that respect, we walk with dignity. We walk with our self-awareness and our willingness to grow. If we're not defending ourselves from other people, if we have space so we're not afraid and need to pop up the quills of our porcupine, if we've got that space, we can walk with dignity. And we can be we're more able to and more willing to grow. We're more able to move into the sun of the sun card. We can trust in the value of ourselves and the world around us and bring what we have to the world and allow the world to respond to us as well. Now, we bring who we are as fully as we can, realized selves, and the world responds to us. We can live and let live. I'll do my thing, you'll do your thing. We can co-create if that works out. If it doesn't work out, that's fine too. The cat's able to interact and is not dependent on the interaction of other people, of specific other people. Like you, Michael, whoever you are, you're supposed to be working with me. And if you're not working with me, I can't do anything. When Sarah is right there beside, we could easily co-create with Sarah, but we're so attached to being reliant on Michael doing stuff with us. You know what I mean? So, with our independence, we don't need Michael there. And we can open ourselves to our interaction with Sarah as well. To live and let live. Take the risk of wandering into new territory as well. Maybe Sarah is new to territory. Doing new things like that, the Page of Wands. Not the Knight of Wands who's out to kill the dragon, but the Page of Wands. Inspired to go and try something new. Let our spirit roam free like the Page of Wands. So the advice, in the sense, is the same as those two cards in the earth side, right? We can think of the porcupine spirit, time for beginner mind, as the Page of Discs, the cat spirit, the Page of Wands. And doing all of that with our own self-respect, our own self-worth, allowing space between us, ourselves and other people, and ourselves and other objects too. But also allowing ourselves to, like a cat, walk into new spaces and new territories and explore what's there. Because we trust ourselves, we can rely on ourselves to do that. As we're also open to our beginner minds of, I don't know where I am. And everything is new. Even if I've been here before, everything is new. Because we never enter this same stream a second time, right? Yeah? The water is always flowing past us. Energy is always flowing through time in the ever-present now, in the eternal now. It's always changing. So why not look at it anew? Look at your children anew. Who are you today? Who are you now? Look at your house anew. What is here now? Look at your office anew. Look at the tree outside anew. What is there? What is this? What is this thing called love? So that's where we are. That's the advice. Makes sense, right? I think that's a beautiful, beautiful spread, an uplifting spread, an opening spread, a spread to remind us to open. And remembering that it's okay if we're not there. If we're not there, we can always get there again. So friends, if you're still with me, hit that thumbs up button so that YouTube knows that you got something out of this and other people will be drawn to this. This channel will be placed in front of other people by YouTube, if that makes sense. I'm asking that question a lot today. Does this make sense? So hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and click the alarm bell. Make sure you get notifications so that you get notifications of when I upload videos. I'm doing 3 a week these days. I think I will be able to continue that. And also comment below. I would love to hear from you. What do you think? What is an eternal student to you? What is a page of discs to you? Can you see how pages of discs and pages of wands can unite into a powerful being? What do you think about that? I'd love to hear from you. And if you want a private reading from me, there will be my email address is below. Send me an email. We can do a reading for you. Any length. 3-card spread, Celtic cross. If you want this, I could try and do this for you as well if you want. Anything is possible. Other systems, yeah? Marseille, Antique Italian, or Thoth if you want. We could do so many different things if you're interested. Shoot me an email. And friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.